Acknowledgments Pitch Perfect would not have happened without the generous support of many people. First, my thanks go to Alyssa Bowman, my co-author, for suggesting this collaboration several years ago, after I had coached her for a media tour for her own book. Alyssa masterfully translated the tenets of our media training sessions into the framework you see in this book and gave the project life. If it were not for Alyssa, I would surely still be staring at a blank screen. Creative, smart, kind, diligent, and patient, she is everything anyone would want in a teammate. A special thanks to Holly's Heimbauch at HarperCollins, who exhibited unbound enthusiasm for this project from our very first meeting. Her warmth, encouragement, and expert guidance made the writing process a delight. Validation that this book was distinctive and merited publishing came from my longtime friend and agent Wayne Quebec of WSK Management. To have a man of talent, wisdom, and integrity like Wayne in your corner is invaluable. Writing this book while keeping my day job was possible thanks only to the hard work and professionalism of the entire team at Clarity Media Group. Lucy Cherkasets took control of running many aspects of the business with such skill that I have no intention of taking them back. My assistant, Mariko Takahashi, kept my chaotic schedule under control and freed up sufficient mental bandwidth for me to focus on writing. And Tiffany Sanchez was an eager sampler of random chapters, always providing encouragement that I was on the right track. The willingness of our other Clarity coaches to shoulder a heavier workload was crucial to the book's completion. Melissa Helen stepped up big time and delivered her usual excellence, as did Bill Cassara, Marissa Thomas, Ken Fuhr, Jim Paymer, Jennifer Fuqui, Dylan Chaffee, John Johnston, and Janet Carlson. The experiences I drew upon from thousands of training sessions were a result of the kindness and generosity of those who helped grow our business over the past 13 years. The following, in alphabetical order, have transcended the status of client and are regarded at Clarity as business-building benefactors: Roger Ailes, Howard Ehrenstein, Laura Relaga Andreessen, Brandy Barker, Wajma Bashariar, Emmy Battaglia, Winnie Beatty, Mike Bertolino, Gordon Blackwell, Julia Borston, Jack Brand, Adam Bryant, Jerry Buckley, Rebecca Caruso, Sean Cassidy, Nathan Christopher, Luke Hanna, Jocelyn Cordova, Karen DiSanto, G9 Dowling, Pat Eisenman, Daniel Eck, Sheila Farron Thurston, Debbie Frost, Lisa Green, Carol Giordino, Mare Griffin, Judy Grossman, Carissa Hayes, Susan Henderson, H.L. Group, Kristen Jones-Connell, Alexander Jutkovitz, Claire Kay, Thomas Keller, Scott Lodd, Neil Lenarski, Mary Lingle, Santina Lusai, Linda Lipman, Derek Maines, Julie Mandel-Slovs, Lee Manning, Karin Marooney, Wynton Marsalis, Mike Maisel, Zoka McDonald, Diane McNulty, Dana Bone-Metz, Katie Burke-Middick, Denise Morrison, Alina Nachmanoff, Jessica O'Callaghan, Tanya Pushkine, David Rhodes, Stephanie Rule, Cheryl Sandberg, Ruchai Sangvi, Anthony Sanzio, Elliot Schrage, Amanda Schumacher, Nell Scoville, Pam Snook, Cara Stein, Johnny Thaw, Pamela Thomas Graham, Matt Traub, Karen Tworenite, Judy Twersky, Jane Ubel-Mayer, Loretta Uccelli, Jonathan Wald, Carolyn Wall, Angela Watts, Kate White, Megan Womack, and Eileen Wu. I've learned the art of storytelling at the knee of so many talented people over the years, but two superstars stand out. Michael Rubin, whom I describe in Chapter 4, has brilliant insights into how stories should unfold. I was lucky enough to be one of his many protégés. Peter Brennan, the creative genius behind A Current Affair, is in a league of his own when it comes to knowing what elements of a story are crucial and conveying them dramatically and efficiently. While incredibly fortunate to have the friendship and support of these wonderful people, I am positively blessed that the most gifted writer I know and the most insightful copy editor around just also happens to be the love of my life, my wife, Donna Cornacchio. To closely read every word of the manuscript with a keenly analytical and discerning eye is surely a sign of true love. Her encouragement and inspiration made this happen. Introduction: speak little, do much. Benjamin Franklin. If just one piece of advice from this book brings you career success, don't thank me. Track down a guy named Roy Schwasinger and thank him. You'll find him in a federal prison somewhere. I met Schwasinger 30 years ago when I was working as a correspondent for A Current Affair, a tabloid news magazine TV program that ran from 1986 to 1996. Schwasinger was your stereotypical bad guy. Because of the silent CH, his name nearly rhymed with swastika, further contributing to his aura of villainy. As an anti-government activist, he was a real boil on the backside of all public and elected officials. He filed false liens, subpoenas, and arrest warrants against certain judges and prosecutors in an elaborate scheme to make their lives miserable. Even worse, he was accused of running a scam on destitute American farmers, falsely promising them, through his sham organization We the People, that he would help them win back their foreclosed farms for a mere $300 court filing fee. That's right, you guessed it. The cash was going straight into Schwasinger's grubby pocket. To imagine Schwasinger, think of the great Santini on a bad acid trip. He was of medium height, a stocky man in his 50s sporting a military-style crew cut and a wardrobe straight off the rack at Sears. The permanent scowl on his face conveyed an unambiguous message: get away from me or I'll hurt you. He turned down all media requests for interviews and made himself about as scarce as a survivalist in rural Idaho. One thing was sure, if I could get close enough to ask him some tough questions, it would make for some great TV. Little did I know just how great that footage would be. Schwasinger ignored my requests for sit-down interviews, so I flew to Fort Collins, Colorado, met up with the camera crew, drove to Schwasinger's house, and waited for him to emerge. Walking up and knocking on the door might seem to you like a logical course of action, but that's actually the last thing reporters generally do. Standing on his stoop would have allowed Schwasinger to call the police and claim that we were trespassing. It also would have tipped him off to our presence, possibly causing him to stay behind locked doors and wait until we lost interest and left town. No, we wanted to wait until he left the house and put himself in some unprotected public place. Then we would catch him by surprise. So inside our rented Ford Explorer we sat. 1 hour ticked by, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 10. This was the pre-digital era, long before Facebook, smartphone apps, and other distractions. Thoroughly exploring and analyzing all the current office gossip used up only about 2 hours. After that, the boredom killing got more challenging. The fact that Hollywood filmmakers can make stakeouts appear glamorous is a true testament to their creative genius. Finally, at 10 the following morning, Roy emerged. We patiently watched as he got into his stinkin' Lincoln and drove off. After hours of mind-numbing inactivity, I suddenly got this surge of adrenaline that caused nearly every nerve ending in my body to tingle. I even forgot how badly I had to pee. We followed at a safe distance of several car lengths for a mile or so, until our black hat in the story pulled into a parking space outside the Larimer County Courthouse. We parked 5 spaces away. "You guys get the camera ready to roll while I go up and make nice," I said to my crew. "Just make sure you walk up rolling." In television parlance, this is what's called an ambush or a sandbagging. Walk up, cameras rolling, and as Andy Cohen says, watch what happens live. Under normal circumstances, cornered animals like Schwasinger don't stay composed, and of course that's what we were counting on. "Mr. Schwasinger, I'm Bill McGowan from A Current Affair," I said, trying to keep my surging adrenaline from making me sound nervous. "I'd like to ask you some questions about We the People." Out of the corner of my eye, I could see our cameraman to my side. I gave a quick look to make sure the red tally light on the front of the camera was lit. Yes, he was recording. Good. The minute Schwasinger noticed the camera, he cut short our handshake. His eyes ferociously darted around as they sized up the severity of this pop-up crisis. If a thought bubble had appeared over his head, it would have read, "WTF is going on here?" "I cannot answer anything," he said. "Why can you not answer anything?" I pressed. "We were nose to nose. Because I'm under a restraining order from disclosing anything." "Go to the U.S. District Court in the District of Nebraska and you'll find it," he said, his saliva spray hitting me in the face, a disgusting development I was able to overlook because I knew I had this fish hooked. I had checked with the prosecutor earlier. As a result, I already knew there were no restrictions on Schwasinger talking. In fact, the prosecutor predicted that Schwasinger would tell me that lie about the restraining order. "Right, we have, sir, and we want to know why you're taking farmers' money." His goon in tow tried to stick his hand in the lens of our camera as Roy walked away, a cliché gesture that, to an audience, says, "Bad guy trying to take cover." As Schwasinger tried to flee, I managed to keep up with him, walking alongside him, step for step, pressing him for an answer as the cameras followed. After about 7 or 8 steps, Roy gave me pure TV gold. He reared back and threw a formidable right cross that connected solidly with my chin and throat. His fist connected close to my wireless microphone, so it gave the audio of the punch an overly dramatic, bone-crunching quality. My head snapped back and I stumbled, but strangely I felt no pain. In fact, I bounced right back up like an inflatable SH-Moo doll. My first thought, whatever happens after this is gravy. The office is going to love this footage. My next thought, isn't that guy over there a cop? Indeed he was. We showed the videotape of the punch to the Fort Collins policeman, and he promptly handcuffed and arrested my attacker. It was later that day, during a precautionary visit to the hospital, that I had an epiphany. My jaw might have been sore, but my eyes had suddenly been opened. There must be countless other people who handle all kinds of public communication situations poorly. If Roy Schwasinger had received some good advice, he could have tried to persuade me instead of trying to deck me. There were at least a half-dozen communication tricks he could have used to emerge from our ambush with his dignity and image intact. After all, when you cold-cock a reporter in front of rolling cameras, your stature in the community tends to suffer. In the aftermath of the Farm Belt, as it came to be known around the office, I suddenly noticed example after example of someone doing and saying something stupid during a high-stakes situation. It was a lot like looking up the meaning of an unfamiliar word and then suddenly noticing that same word in 3 different places that same week. These communication self-saboteurs weren't just people like Schwasinger who found themselves sandbagged by a reporter. They were celebrities and politicians and executives and everyone in between. Long before Sarah Palin provided us with endless amusement, former Vice President Dan Keel was almost single-handedly validating the need for communication coaches. For years he was the benchmark for bonehead statements. Who can forget his attempt to paraphrase the United Negro College Fund's slogan, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," which instead came out as, "What a waste it is to lose one's mind," or "Not to have a mind is being very wasteful." How true that is. The degree of his wastefulness was hard to dispute, but plenty of household names were keeping the Veep company. The word genius isn't applicable in football. The genius is a guy like Norman Einstein. Joe Theismann, NFL football quarterback and sports analyst. Smoking can kill you. And if you've been killed, you've lost a very important part of your life. Brooke Shields, model and actress. Outside of the killings, D.C. has one of the lowest crime rates in the country. Mayor Marion Barry, Washington, D.C. Pick an era, any era, and you'll find faux pas of historic proportions. Many of these memorable manglings came from people who belonged to the Communication 1% Club. They were the elite public speakers, politicians, athletes, actresses, and executives in the public eye. These were folks who had a team of image experts and communications specialists at the ready. So that got me thinking, if they say things off pitch, what chance do the rest of us, the 99%ers, have of tiptoeing through the communications minefield unscathed? Someone capable of steering them in the right direction and building sound communication instincts could really make a positive impact and be a valuable resource. It would be a few more years before I realized that maybe I could be the one providing that trusted counsel. At the time, I was writing and producing long-format news magazine stories for Connie Chung at a BC News 20/20, a position that would soon be coming to an end. I like Connie a lot. She is warm and gracious, with a deliciously edgy sense of humor that strays into bluntly provocative territory every now and then. But 20/20 was a no-win situation for both of us. Connie was in the unenviable and frustrating position of being pushed to the periphery of significance. As her producer, I could clearly see the future. ABC was a dead end for Connie. As a result, planning my own escape was a must. It was around this time that a friend asked me if I was interested in producing a 3-minute branding video for a client of hers who was launching a job search website. She wanted a substantive sizzle reel to prove to the venture capital community that her company was worthy of funding. Part of the shoot involved a sit-down interview. After it was over, she asked, "Do you mind playing some of the videotape back so I can see how I did?" Initially, I thought what a pain this was going to be, setting up a special monitor and cutting into valuable shooting time for a sneak preview just to satisfy her curiosity. But I had just crossed the threshold from TV journalist to businessman, where pleasing the client at all costs is the prime directive. So of course my response was, "Sure, we can do that." And it was during that playback that my transformational aha moment occurred. Instinctively, I started telling this client that she would be better served starting her answers a different way, keeping her answers in an affirmative tone and active, rather than passive voice. Oh, and while you're at it, sit forward in your chair a bit. Don't be afraid to punctuate your key points with some hand gestures and maintain more sustained eye contact with your interviewer. She reached forward to hit pause on the video player and said, "This is what you should be doing. I mean, I'm sure you're a perfectly good TV producer, but you're really good at this. Do you have any idea of the value of this kind of guidance?" The friend who had connected us overheard this conversation and must have tucked it away because, at a cocktail party the following week, when the head of PR for Real Simple magazine said to her, "We just had to get rid of our media trainer. Do you know a good one?" She said, "I sure do." So in a somewhat intimidating, initiation by fire situation, my first client was one of the hottest magazines on the newsstands. The new emboldened me went back to Connie to tell her that it was time for me to move on. The next chapter in my career was about to start. Now, after 12 years as a communications coach, I study language just as meticulously as the former New York Times statistician Nate Silver studies numbers. Watching a big interview or major speech on TV with me is probably as annoying as going to a movie with a film director. I just can't help dissecting, analyzing, and critiquing. Anyone who monitors their Facebook newsfeed during a political convention, a presidential debate, or the Academy Awards is probably tempted to defriend me. On any given day, I help my clients decide what to say and how to say it. That may include coaching corporate executives to craft a compelling and relatable narrative that stresses the possibilities of what lies ahead more than any current problems. Heads of nonprofits to bring a sense of poignancy and urgency to their case for why their cause is deserving of people's support. Employees to stand out by articulating their thoughts with clarity, brevity, and conviction. Public speakers, not only to overcome their nerves and deliver their content without stumbles, but also keep the audience's attention throughout their speech or presentation and ultimately say something memorable. Authors to talk about their work in a way that fuels book sales but without sounding overtly salesy. Professional on-air reporters and anchors not to become a caricature of a TV news talking head. Computer engineers at technology companies to convey clearly the practical importance of what they've designed and built. Sales teams to win over new clients by telling a compelling story about their company's distinctiveness. Job seekers to highlight their competitive strengths by illustrating them through case study type storytelling. No matter the client or the scenario, and regardless of whether I'm working with people one-on-one or in groups, I'm often asked for advice about the same areas of concern. Broadly, that could be, how do I project greater confidence and command? How can I admit to a mistake without losing people's confidence? How do I inspire others to deliver their very best? How do I ask for what I deserve in a way that's persuasive, not whiny? The more specific guidance often centers on, what do I do with my hands while I'm talking? How do I get rid of filler words? How do I bring more gravitas to the sound of my voice? How can I be more concise and stop rambling? No matter the concern, the solutions reside in the 7 principles of persuasion that you'll learn more about throughout the pages of Pitch Perfect. I leaned on these principles during my broadcast career and have since adapted and developed them to help anyone communicate more effectively in virtually any situation. They apply to everything you could possibly ever want to say at work and even at home. It gives me great personal satisfaction to teach some of the principles to family and friends who ask for help with a wedding toast, winning answers for a big job interview, or techniques for delivering a great bar mitzvah speech. I've also had the privilege of coaching some people who are regarded by others as naturals, the Roy Hobbses of communications. What I've learned is that those born great types are rare. The overwhelming majority of people we admire for their public speaking prowess have 2 simple ingredients behind their greatness. 1. They put themselves in the hands of an insightful coach who isn't trying to turn them into somebody else but rather brings out their best. 2. Once they have useful guidance, they work tirelessly to get better. I'll make a deal with you. This book will take care of number 1. I will impart everything I know, everything I have learned during my 4,000 coaching sessions. What you will come away with is a thorough yet simple set of principles for deftly handling a wide variety of personal and professional communication scenarios so you can achieve the best of all possible results. And if you have a few good laughs along the way, just consider it an added bonus. Number 2 is on you. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Practice, practice, practice. From here on, accept every invitation you get to do public speaking. Be the first one with your hand in the air when someone asks, would anybody like to say a few words? Think of me as your golf or tennis coach. I'll give you the secret to the right swing, but then you have to go out and play so you can ingrain this new muscle memory. Let's each hold up our respective ends of the bargain. That's the best way I know for you to become pitch perfect.